What a firestorm in anticipation for this episode. Now, we're going to break down what actually happened and if it lived up to the hype surrounding the teasers that Bravo released themselves before the episode aired. And then we're going to get into some additional context from high-profile attendees of Garcelle's party where everything went down. We pick up right after the cliffhanger of Sutton versus Diana reigniting and Erika continuing her sloppy ways with a wrap-up of Diana versus Sutton, where Kyle is still lingering around trying to sort things out after miscarriage talk completely derailed, where Sutton is still trying to reach Diana on a human level, but Diana is now shutting down and is not very happy when Sutton continuously tries to reach out a soft hand to touch her leg in comfort and connection, reiterating though her understanding of Diana having had 2 miscarriages herself. Now the problem here is Kyle was not present earlier when Sutton brought this up the first time. So now Kyle is thrown off why Sutton is even bringing up her own miscarriages that apparently none of them have never heard before. And Kyle's first gut reaction is to question Sutton's sincerity in this, saying she does not believe Sutton had 2 miscarriages. Now, my initial thought here was, what the heck is Kyle thinking? But maybe she is directing her skepticism at Sutton. She really means to be directed towards Diana, who both on and off camera has had a lot of questionable things going on. But we'll get to more on Kyle related to this scene a little bit later. But back in the scene, Kyle continues saying she never heard this before as justification to call BS on Sutton bringing this up. But Sutton calls out Kyle for being very strange, adding, after Kyle questions, "This was not out of the blue. I was trying to connect with Diana." And as Sutton is begging now for some mercy from Diana, and after Diana gives in and gives her the mercy, Sutton's first words out of her mouth are, "Well, if you're going to be a motherfucker and make me be real, then here it is," followed by Sutton breaking down even more than she was and Kyle again stepping in, but this time grabbing Sutton by the shoulders and literally shaking her as Sutton is continuing to break down, and Diana is now as far into the corner of the couch as humanly possible at this point. But in their confessionals, Diana calls this a new low, and Sutton calls out Kyle for insinuating she may be lying about a miscarriage. Now, back in the scene, Sutton says this is really mean to question her miscarriage story, and this whole thing has actually garnered a lot of backlash for Kyle, in addition to some comments later on in response to what is about to happen with Erika and Garcelle, but you're going to have to stay tuned to hear what that's all about and my thoughts on that and all the backlash there. But Sutton versus Diana isn't over yet. Sutton then tries explaining her behavior to Kyle in front of Diana, saying, "Well, what do you expect me to do when Diana is sitting here looking at me like I'm the devil?" And I think the word devil was the magical word to unleash Diana not only asking, "Well, are you the devil, Sutton?" but also this rather demonic, villainous laugh followed by a smirk as Sutton continues unraveling. But finally, somehow, Diana seems to let this all go for now, allowing Sutton to hug her, even though Diana confesses the reason she is doing it is because she thinks there's actually something off about Sutton, and this is a way to kind of just diffuse the situation, and also says she squirmed internally during the hug. Now, Diana then exits the party stage left. Sutton then wanders around the party in a tizzy looking for her assistant to then exit stage left herself, and Kyle rejoins the rest of the group. What a mess. But one quick thought before we move on about Diana saying Sutton is a little bit off. To me, I think these girls think Sutton is a little weird, and that's been the storyline against Sutton for many years now, because she is actually empathetic and authentic and stands out in this group of women who are probably used to being around a lot of fakeness in what I like to call the epicenter of fakeness, known as the entertainment industry of Hollywood and Los Angeles, California. Just a thought. But now on to another mess, the not so pretty mess known as Calamity Jayne, who is with the main group as well, and she is now calling the bartender over to have more drinks while also accosting Dorit, and unlike last episode where to Garcelle's face, she didn't directly call her son hot, this time, now further inebriated into the party, asks Garcelle directly where her hot son is, and Garcelle appears to answer Erika to not push back too much at this point, clearly trying to laugh it off, knowing the party is about to end and not really wanting to cause any trouble. But Erika, being Erika, has to continue saying, you know what? I ain't got shit to lose. And Garcelle is obviously still laughing this off, but Dorit is seeing and hearing this and is like, Garcelle, I'm going to get Oliver out of here. And after Garcelle laughs it off, Dorit continues pushing Garcelle to get her 3 boys out of the party before Erika takes them in whatever form she would, because clearly Dorit knows something we do not. But Erika then calls Oliver over, telling him, you're hot, get over here. So he approaches slightly, but still stays a little distant from Erika, taking the compliment, but not taking it any further. Erika asks Oliver if he is married. He and Dorit confirm, yes, he is married with children, but that doesn't stop Erika. If anything, she appears to be more attracted to him knowing this information. Going further, asking him to let his quote-unquote baby mama contact her so they can all schedule a threesome. And everyone else, besides Erika, is laughing, but it appears to be an uncomfortable laugh at this point, where Erika goes another step further, calling over Oliver to sit next to them, saying, be a man and come sit over here. Where Erika then tries saying, oh, we're just BSing with you. But before it could go any further, Garcelle saves them all by wanting to leave, telling Oliver, let's go. But this ends with Oliver and Erika politely saying, nice to meet you, goodbye. But Erika clearly realizes she's being rejected and Oliver is not going to play this game. And Garcelle confesses this is not looking like fun and games, more like the Hunger Games. As Garcelle is leaving, Crystal innocently asks her if she wants to take some flower arrangements home. Garcelle, of course, says yes and sends her 14-year-old son, Jax, over to grab them. Now, as Jax is grabbing them, Erika sees this and quickly says, wait, what are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here. With her hand kind of waving in his face, and Jax is all bug-eyed like, what the heck is happening? But Crystal then goes into protective mom and friend mode, quickly whispering Jax away back to his mom at the door because she sees Erika is not acting normal enough for anyone to be around her, much less this young teenager. Dorit then confesses she was sick to her stomach, seeing Erika talk like this to Garcelle's teenage son, and at the party was trying to calm Erika down before Garcelle got wind of what just happened from a clearly taken off guard Jax, saying he felt violated for grabbing the flowers. Hopefully, violated doesn't trigger Crystal this time. We'll see, but this leads to Garcelle going right over to Erika, rather calmly, I would say, telling her in an exhausted, defeated tone, you hurt Jax's feelings, don't ever talk to him like that again. And Erika seems surprised to hear that he didn't like the way she approached him. But Garcelle does not let it continue or let Erika talk to Jax again in that instance, which I think was the right thing to do, and confesses after these 2 incidences with 2 of her 3 kids at her birthday party in one night, Erika is quote-unquote done. Finally, though, Garcelle, the morning after, is prepping for the real taping at the studio, which is an interesting coincidence that they chose this footage, which I'm going to share why in a moment. But she thinks Erika needs to figure out her med situation, her med to alcohol ratio, if you will, and explained to us that on the way home, she told Jax that he wasn't in the wrong. And we learned that Oliver, the older brother, told his younger brothers, I think you guys aged many years in one night after all that went down. And Garcelle says she wants Erika to apologize to Jax. All right, lots of ground to cover here. First, a lot of weird behavior at this party could be explained, but not excused, by confirmation there were only drinks served, no food. And this was confirmed by party attendee and fellow The Real co-host, Loni Love, who was on E's Daily Pop recently previewing and adding more context to this episode that she was a part of. And I can see from a mile away, Erika somehow at some point is going to scapegoat Garcelle not having food at the party for her poor behavior. But then Adrienne Houghton, who is also a real co-host of Garcelle's, she added that if they had seen this go down, they would not have been as nice as Garcelle in that moment, which to me again shows how good of a person and how well liked Garcelle is to have people in the industry and people in general at her party willing to take up for her in defense of her kids and her. But Adrienne then also alluded to more happening at the party with Erika when Erika was talking to her and Loni, but wasn't sure if they would show it. Well, I think I know exactly what she is referring to, because she and Loni made comments to Garcelle on the reel back in January, February of 2022, just a few months ago, as more news was breaking about Erika's legal happenings. And it happened to be only a few months after they filmed Garcelle's birthday party, but after they, or about when they were wrapping the season filming, the one that we're watching right now. And the story was of Erika cryptically saying the people in her corner most throughout the legal troubles are not, and then she points at her skin, her own skin tone, implying that people of color believe Erika the most out of anybody, which at the time seemed weird, but also seemed like a nothing burger on its own, and still did until I remembered that story in the current context of people saying there may have been some racial undertones with Erika speaking to Garcelle and her sons a certain way at this party. Something I also questioned the validity of on its own until I put all of this together, because until all this context comes together, it all seems coincidental of Erika being a white person talking to black people. But her changing vernacular slightly, then her aggression, then these earlier in the party comments as told by Adrienne and Loni, all these separately aren't enough for me to say without being in Erika's head that it was racially influenced. But altogether, in one setting with drinks flowing where I believe a drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts, then all of that together makes it become a little more likely that it could be racially undertoned. But we cannot say for sure still without being able to read minds or Erika confirming or denying any motive or intent herself. I do think, though, it is more likely Erika's aggression is fueled by being denied by Oliver first, after changing her vernacular, likely in hopes to get in Garcelle and Oliver's good graces, likely because she wanted to get in his pants. Plus also the anger from the conversation about Denise not showing up, which we saw at the end of last episode, and then a disagreement that was part of the Never Before Seen special right before this episode aired of Garcelle and Erika disagreeing on Diana's handling of Sutton's seating arrangement on the private plane back from Mexico only a few episodes ago. All of that, plus her being slightly annoyed, I think, that maybe kids were even present at the party. All of that, I think, led to her blowing up on Jax, who was not only the youngest and most innocent person at the party, but he was the last one to really interact with her before leaving the party and everything ending. So I think that was the most likely plausible situation given what we've seen, but who knows what is going on in Erika's head. But also, to play devil's advocate, Garcelle did bring her younger sons to the party knowing who she invited. However, it still does not warrant Erika's behavior, because when you're at Garcelle's party, it is Garcelle's rules. And if you aren't comfortable with the kids being there, or you don't want to be on your best behavior, then you can leave. And let's not forget, though, how Erika reacts anytime her kid is brought up in the slightest way on the show over the many years. And this theme will return later when Kyle and Dorit's comments with their husbands on this incident come up. But it did seem Garcelle was okay with Erika's playful behavior until it crossed the line after knowing Oliver was married with kids and Erika couldn't take a hint. But maybe this scene proves Erika is a homewrecker and proud of it. But normally people shut down flirting sexual talk once you learn someone is married. But this may also prove that Erika always talking about sex means she is overcompensating for the fact that she isn't getting much. Just saying. But overall, I thought Garcelle and Oliver actually handled the situation really well. Oliver being nice, but not crossing a line. Garcelle knowing when to leave after it appears Erika had no boundaries, treating the son of a quote-unquote friend, even though Erika, not knowing much about Garcelle's kids, calls all that friendship stuff into question, and not treating him like some random guy she met at the bar, but also coming back to defend her youngest son in a stern way against Erika without making a huge scene and not putting Jax in more harm's way. All of that shows what a great example Garcelle and her ex-husband have set for their kids, which I think was the reason even she was comfortable to bring the kids around all these people in the first place at a grown-up party. But anyways, let's put a pin in this for now. I've talked enough about the situation. We're going to now head to Dorit and Crystal at a self-defense class. And all I'm going to say about this is good on Crystal for trying to help her friend out. And I actually thought Dorit looked stronger and more intent than I thought she would. Most of the scene was more of the same we've already seen this season. But now to Sutton and Kyle hashing out their recent tiff over a sober-ish Italian dinner, where Sutton shows off her book purse and makes a lot of sense by saying even though she and Diana weren't having a great conversation to begin with at Garcelle's party, Kyle coming in before Sutton was able to get her point across with Diana, and Kyle's harsh approach right off the bat made everything worse. Kyle does quickly pivot though to saying the reason she was taken back by Sutton bringing up her miscarriage was not realizing they were just talking about it right before she walked up, and she does apologize for even giving the impression she thought Sutton was making it up. Unfortunately for Kyle, she couples this apology with a but, adding the reason her knee-jerk reaction was to question the validity of Sutton's statement was seeing weird behavior from Sutton recently. Now, Sutton then explains to Kyle she was trying to reach Diana on a personal, intimate, emotional level. This is the same Kyle who has had a very tough time understanding others in the group this season somehow. Not sure if it's genuine or her attempt at gaslighting, controlling, and stirring the pot. But anyways, we end the scene with Sutton and Kyle making up finally, and Sutton reenacting her apology to Diana with the ice bucket next to them as a stand-in for Diana, which I thought was funny, and some light, friendly banter, busting each other's balls as true friends do. But like I said earlier, I think Kyle may have misdirected her questions at Sutton meant for Diana, but some of you in the Premiere live chat and comment section of last week's recap and react said maybe Kyle is playing nice with Diana because of Diana's future real estate deals Mauricio could get a piece of. And of course, this triggered my season 1 of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills memory of Kyle being worried her tiff with Camille Grammer at the time would affect future business with Mauricio, and made me think that you're definitely all right on the spot about that one. All right, so we are now starting a Thanksgiving prep and party montage with the girls, beginning with the Umansky household adjusting for additional members to the family for this holiday and all the holidays going forward now that Farrah is engaged. And they're talking future grandbabies who Kyle wants to be close with, just like she was with her grandma, which after the last few years is definitely a conversation that has become more and more common recently, as most of us want to keep family as close as possible, knowing what we just went through and what the future holds. But next, Garcelle, Crystal, and their kids are serving Thanksgiving dinner at the Los Angeles Mission, which is very nice to see, and also a very, very good volunteering opportunity and experience. No matter where you live and no matter what time of year it is, I can attest to that. It is very rewarding and feels really good to be there seeing the impact firsthand. But this was followed by Dorit and Crystal sharing home video from their holiday, and we see Kyle, Kim, and Kathy were together during the holidays with a brief appearance from none other than Teddy Mellencamp. But we then arrive post-Thanksgiving to Diana Jenkins' house, being paid a visit by Lisa Rinna, who has been mostly absent the last few episodes. But before they catch up, we get Rinna sharing she remembers the other house of Diana's with a priceless view that we actually learn was an $80+ million view. And fun fact, I believe that was the house the Kardashians used to film their quarantine last season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians on E! Before switching over to the Kardashians on Hulu. But anyways, Diana shares updates on her daughter who had a birthday on Thanksgiving and how she loved the party and the people, and she's just a party girl like her parents, saying she loves the song Dancing Queen from ABBA. And then Rinna shares how the holidays are tough without her mom this year, with every day bringing different vibes. But then they get into catching up after Garcelle's birthday party, where Diana conveniently tailors her interaction with Sutton to make herself look good and make Sutton look bad, of course. But with the funny part of Diana being confused by Sutton calling her a mother effer, because Diana says she doesn't ever remember effing her mother in Bosnia, which of course she was saying that the literal translation for a foreigner sounds weird, but she realizes now it's kind of a play on words or a term of whatever. But most notable in this recounting was Diana interpreting Sutton sharing her 2 miscarriages as her trying to one-up Diana's 1 miscarriage, and then we get Rinna and Diana diagnosing Sutton as displaying a unique level of narcissism based on cherry-picked information. Are we shocked? No. But we'll have to see if Rinna holds this opinion going forward up until the reunion. But finally, Diana ends threatening to withhold her private jet the next trip. Little does she know, Sutton already threatened to take her own plane. So we'll see how the plane wars unfold. But next, we are back at the Umansky household where Kyle, Dorit, and their husbands will be chatting in a scene reminiscent of last year's infamous laughing at Erika's life scene. This time they are laughing at the Erika versus Garcelle's son scene we just saw at Garcelle's birthday. And this caused quite the stir in people thinking Dorit, Kyle, PK, and Mauricio were condoning Erika's behavior by laughing at it and saying sarcastically they were glad she did it, which for Dorit would differ from her initial in-person reaction and confessional take. But in my opinion, I think they actually got a bad edit here, and it appears they were being sarcastic and playful. Another notable comment, though, from this scene was Dorit responding to PK, justifying Erika's behavior as an allowed occasional blow-up with, if you blow up like that as often as Erika does PK, then you're going to see yourself in divorce court. Interesting take. But I think people blew this out of proportion the way Erika did last season when this group laughed at how ridiculous her car accident stories were with her son and Tom, not because a car accident is funny, but because of the absurdity of the situation. However, they all seem to be giving Erika a slight pass, even with the passive aggression, because she was allegedly inebriated, and Dorit adds, well, it wasn't my child, so why should I care? Which at this point should add Dorit to team rule for thee, not for me, but I'll be shocked at Dorit's flip-flop. I don't know, even though she did the right thing earlier. Don't know what she's thinking. They add they can never remember a time when Erika was this loose and free. Well, maybe there's a reason for that, because when she is this loose and free, she is inappropriate and messy and irresponsible. But Kyle did throw some shade in her confessional, saying, at least Erika's being genuine. Yikes. Don't know if she meant it to come off that way, similar to last season's trophy wife comment. And this scene has gotten just as much, if not more, press than the initial Erika versus Garcelle's son incident earlier, based on just the short preview clips released by Bravo ahead of this episode airing, which, by the way, bravo to Bravo, because the two teasers they released got people talking more than I think I've ever seen in a long time before this episode aired. But unfortunately, it might be backfiring because the people that are subjects of these clips might be hated even more by the audience. But to me, the backlash as far as them laughing at the incident was a little misplaced. It should have been where they're literally saying, we can forgive Erika for this because she's drinking and whatnot. But anyways, the target of the backlash has now reached Netflix, who is just announced that there's going to be a new show with Mauricio and his daughters, Real Estate Wise, flipping houses or something. And this to me makes it very clear that people trying to cancel that project we're looking for a reason to hate on Kyle and Mauricio. And if this is all you can find, then I think they might be pretty good people and might not have that many skeletons. That's all I'll say for now. But Dana Wilkie said she thinks the bad edit for Kyle may be Bravo trying to push her out the door the same way they did to Vicki Gunvalson on Orange County a few years ago. Let me know what you think of that. But before we head to the first lunch group event post Garcelle's birthday, Sheree and Garcelle catch up before heading over, with them agreeing after Erika pulled her stunt with Garcelle's kids, they will quote unquote set a bitch straight. After agreeing it is best to have a conversation with sober Erika. Good luck catching Erika sober anytime soon. But after Sutton runs around getting ready to host the group in her almost done house and planning for the wet, mucky grass, home to the tablescape, which does always seem to rain when you want to have something outside in Southern California, and of course everyone arriving to the beautiful new renovated home with great shoes on, not knowing what they're about to encounter, destroying their shoes in the mud. But they end up having drinks in the living room, leading to a brief, light, yet tense conversation between Erika and Garcelle, who arrives after we learn Erika likes Coast 103.5 as her favorite official holiday music station. I will second that. One of the few things I agree with Erika on. But we then see Erika went for a hike recently with Crystal, who informed Erika the kids were 14, not 16, which Erika seems to think is some huge change in the story, that treating a 16-year-old like they're an adult is different than treating a 14-year-old like they're adults. Okay, Erika, whatever. But we are still not quite going there with Garcelle and Erika, and this is really building the tension for what appears to be a confrontation next week over the incident. But Garcelle confesses the drinks aren't the problem, it is the behavior, which is indicative of who you are. I agree. The reason is not an excuse. But Erika then tries acknowledging her wrongdoing subtly by saying, I've learned my lesson to only have one drink. But Garcelle clearly isn't going to take this as the apology and move on from there based on what happened at her party, and I don't think she should. I think grounded and gutsy Garcelle is handling this like a pro by letting Erika show everyone who she is all on her own by making Erika sweat it out in silence, knowing Garcelle is watching every move of hers, taking notes, compiling receipts if needed in case Erika doesn't just self-destruct all on her own. But now Sutton breaks the news of the mucky mud to the girls, who are all upset, except for Kyle, leading to Sutton getting them all flip-flops and then fur coats from her closet when things get cold to them. Lisa uses this as an opportunity to shade Sutton by calling this beautiful tablescape on top of this muddy mess the perfect description of Sutton herself. Now, although she could have mitigated this mess with rugs or towels, as pointed out on the Rick and Kelly show by Kelly Dodd herself, I think this was slight punishment for the girls for leaving Sutton stranded on many fronts the last few seasons, while also exposing who the truly wealthy are and who are not. Which this proved to me that Kyle and Sutton are likely the most rich out of this group, sans Diana, who was not present, which we'll learn in a moment. And that's because Sutton and Kyle were the only two that just kept whatever shoes they had on, and they said they were going to deal with the mess later. Also, I think this was likely a produced moment of embracing the mud and not moving the party inside, even though the original plan was probably to have it outside, but they probably said, you know what, let's just go with it. But Dana Wilkie also said what I was thinking of. If you can't afford to buy 2 pairs of that shoe, you probably can't afford the first one. But we only get a taste of the sit-down portion of the lunch this episode before it ends. But those first tastes are the girls complaining of the light meal with edible flowers. Probably Sutton brushed off all these complaints because of the mud situation she put them in. We get Dorit explaining to the girls more home invasion side effects, and us learning Diana isn't coming, which gives Garcelle an in to reiterate she thinks Diana is rude for not telling the hostess she won't be coming. This leads to Erika being praised for her heads up of showing up late to the hostess, and Sutton saying she doesn't like that passive-aggressive behavior from Diana, where Rinna is quick to defend her friend Diana not present with, oh really, you don't like passive aggression? Well, that's the pot calling the kettle black, going right into asking Sutton, did you call Diana a mother effer and soulless? Way to be direct, Rinna. But we'll have to wait till next week to find out what happens. But anyways, click around the channel for more until the next one. And I want to thank you for having me in your online life.